There are moments in sports history when a single transaction can alter the course of an entire franchise. Moments that seem harmless at first, but later become the kind of decision that fans remember for decades. The Boston Celtics are dangerously close to one of those moments, and the potential twist in this story involves not just losing a player, but handing him directly to their greatest rival. Imagine seeing Sam Hauser, one of the league's most efficient and cold-blooded shooters, wearing purple and gold while knocking down dagger threes in playoff games against the Celtics. That image alone should send a chill through Boston. The Los Angeles Lakers have quietly been studying ways to retool around Luka Doncic and LeBron James. And according to ESPN, their front office sees an opportunity in the shooting market that could include Hauser. They believe sharpshooters can be acquired for bargain prices compared to big men, and the examples they cite make the situation look deceptively safe. Names like Luke Kennard, Norman Powell, and Seth Curry have been moved or signed for relatively modest returns, leading the Lakers to think players such as Grayson Allen or Sam Hauser could be snatched up without much resistance. That perception, if not met with resistance from Boston, could be catastrophic. Trading with the Lakers is never just about basketball. This is the deepest rivalry in NBA history, measured not just in championships but in pride, identity, and moments that have shaped the league's narrative. Handing over a high-value shooter to Los Angeles would be more than a roster move. It would be an invitation for them to close the gap in ways that numbers alone cannot measure. And if Boston believes they could recoup value in the form of future draft picks, they are ignoring a more dangerous reality. The true price of such a trade would be measured in playoff heartbreak and the psychological edge handed to their fiercest rival, Sam. Hauser is not a role player you can casually replace. His shooting numbers put him in a tier so rare, it almost feels like a statistical anomaly. He has hit at least 40% of his three-point attempts in every season of his career, from high school to the NBA, with no signs of decline. In the modern NBA, that level of consistency under pressure is pure gold. Last season, only 19 players in the league shot 40% or better from deep, while attempting at least 5 threes per game over a minimum of 50 games. Hauser was on that list. The season before, it happened again, with only 20 players hitting that mark. In both cases, Hauser was part of a group so elite that only 6 names overlapped between the 2 years, including Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. When you find yourself mentioned in the same breath as Hall of Fame caliber shooters, it is not coincidence. It is proof of a rare skill set. And Hauser's value to Boston is magnified by the roster's construction. The Celtics are built around stars with massive contracts and a system that thrives on spacing and perimeter shooting. Removing a player like Hauser from that equation would not just weaken the bench, it would alter the team's offensive geometry, forcing other players into less optimal roles and allowing defenses to cheat in ways they cannot now. The most dangerous part of this scenario is that Hauser's contract is a hidden weapon. While many elite shooters command 8-figure annual salaries, his deal is so team-friendly that it feels almost unfair. In a league where every dollar matters and luxury tax penalties can cripple flexibility, having one of the best shooters in the game locked into such a favorable deal is the kind of advantage contenders dream about. Giving that up voluntarily would be like handing the keys to a vault while expecting the other side not to open it. The Celtics stand at a fork in the road. On one path lies stability, spacing, and the continuation of an offensive system that maximizes every inch of the floor. On the other lies the risk of empowering the one team whose success Boston fans cannot tolerate. The decision is not just about keeping a shooter, it is about protecting the soul of the franchise from a move that would echo far beyond a single season. The Boston Celtics have just watched a potential answer to one of their most puzzling roster challenges slip away, yet the way events unfolded might have opened a more intriguing door than anyone could have predicted. In a summer where every move feels like a step on a chessboard designed to outthink the entire league, the front office found itself at a crossroads. They could chase the safe, predictable choice or take a swing at something far more daring. They chose the latter, and that decision could quietly become one of the most important turning points of the season, with Jayson Tatum focusing on his recovery from a ruptured Achilles tendon and the weight of expectations heavy on the shoulders of Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and newly added Anfernee Simons. The Celtics know they are walking into a season where flexibility will be just as important as star power. Every rotation decision, every second unit adjustment could tilt the balance between chasing home court advantage and simply fighting to stay in the top tier. The loss came in the form of Richaun Holmes, a free agent center who many believed could have been a quick fix for Boston's perceived weakness at the 5. Holmes had the size, the finishing touch around the rim, and the veteran experience to bring stability. Instead, he will be taking his talents overseas, joining Panathinaikos on a deal that, according to reports, will make him one of the highest-paid players in all of Europe. It is the kind of move that reshapes the international basketball market, but leaves NBA teams wondering what could have been. Holmes' numbers last year for the Washington Wizards were quietly solid, averaging over 7 points and nearly 6 rebounds in just 17 minutes a night, while hitting nearly % of his shots. Those stats do not just tell you he was efficient, they tell you that whenever he touched the ball, something good usually happened. Losing a player like that might sound like a setback, but in Boston's case, it triggered a pivot that could end up far more impactful. Because instead of going with the predictable, safe fit, the Celtics went for someone with a skill set that can bend the floor in ways few big men can. Enter Chris Boucher, the 8-year veteran whose entire NBA career until now was spent in Toronto, where he carved out a reputation as one of the most relentless and versatile bench weapons in the league. His numbers in the Raptors' all-time rankings for bench production read like a monopoly board of dominance, leading in points, rebounds, blocks, minutes, and even three-point makes off the bench. That is not just production, that is sustained impact. Over years, standing at 2 meters and 5 centimeters, Boucher is more than just length. He has the range to step out and hit from deep at over 36% last season, while also being quick enough to close out on shooters and recover to protect the rim. He can roll to the basket or pop to the perimeter, forcing defenses into uncomfortable decisions. And perhaps most importantly, he brings a level of energy that can tilt the momentum of a game in a single defensive sequence. This is not the kind of signing that makes national headlines in August, but it is the kind of move that championship rosters are built on. 1 year, $3,300,000 is a minimal risk for a player who could solve multiple problems at once. If Boucher maintains his shooting touch from last season and continues to block shots at his career pace, he could unlock lineup combinations that give Boston a new dimension, both offensively and defensively. What makes this even more intriguing is how his game complements the current core. His vertical spacing can free up lanes for Brown and Simons, while his ability to stretch the floor can create cleaner looks for Pritchard and White. He also has the kind of quick hands and long reach that could fuel transition opportunities, which have always been one of Boston's hidden weapons. When they commit to running, Boucher is no developmental project. At 33 next season, he brings maturity and a deep understanding of what it takes to contribute on a winning team. But he still moves and plays with the hunger of someone trying to prove himself. Shams Charania has already hinted that his role in Boston will be significant, which means this is not just a depth signing, it is a calculated investment in versatility. Boucher seizes this opportunity. The Celtics might not only patch their center rotation, but also discover a weapon that other contenders simply cannot replicate. If that happens, this summer's quiet gamble could become the storyline that everyone is talking about next spring. The Boston Celtics might have just stumbled into one of the most intriguing and potentially game-changing situations of the entire NBA offseason. The kind of twist that makes rival executives uneasy and keeps fans wondering if this was all part of Brad Stevens' plan from the start. The deal that sent Georges Niang and 2 valuable second-round picks for rookie RJ Lewis Jr. may not have sounded like a blockbuster. Yet beneath the surface, it unlocked a strategic freedom that could reshape the team's short-term and long-term trajectory. With that single move, Boston managed to navigate under the punishing second apron of the salary cap, a threshold that has been haunting several contenders this summer. And by doing so, they quietly shifted the conversation around one player whose future seemed almost certain just weeks ago. Anfernee Simons, the 26-year-old guard acquired in the JRU Holiday deal, is no longer a salary burden to be moved. Instead, he might be one of the most vital pieces in Boston's arsenal for the upcoming season. This is where the story gets fascinating. Simons is not just a scorer. He is a scorer with a style perfectly suited for a Celtics team entering a transitional year without its franchise cornerstone, Jayson Tatum, who is recovering from an Achilles tendon rupture. In a system that thrives on spacing, quick ball movement, and perimeter shooting, Simons can be the trigger that keeps defenses honest. His shooting splits from last season over 42% from the field, more than 36% from deep and an elite 90% at the free throw line speak for themselves. But numbers only tell part of the story. Simons brings an offensive unpredictability that can completely tilt a game's momentum. He can score in isolation, punish defenders who go under screens, and break down coverages with his handle. Place him alongside Jaylen Brown and Derek White, and the floor spacing becomes a puzzle opponents may not be able to solve. Even when his outside shot is contested, he has the first step and finishing ability to attack the rim, forcing rotations that leave Boston's shooters open. Critics will point to his defensive limitations, but that might be missing the bigger picture. The Celtics have the personnel and the scheme to mask weaknesses and elevate players who are elite in other areas. Under Joe Mazzulla's system, Boston could leverage Simons' offense while surrounding him with high-level defenders, turning his perceived flaw into a non-issue. And in a season where the goal is not an immediate championship, but strategic positioning for the future, that is a gamble worth taking. Here's where it becomes even more intriguing. Simons' contract, valued at $27.6 million and set to expire, could become one of the most sought-after trade assets by the February 2026 deadline. If he performs at the level he's capable of, Boston could hold a rare card, a top-tier scorer in his prime, with an expiring deal. That combination is pure gold in the trade market, offering flexibility to either extend him, flip him for high-value pieces, or keep him as part of a reloaded title run in 2026 to 27. For now, though, Boston doesn't need to think about moving him. They can focus on letting Simons play with freedom, testing just how high his ceiling can go in a competitive environment surrounded by playoff-caliber talent. This is his chance to prove he's more than a scorer on a struggling team, and it's Boston's chance to see if they've just uncovered the missing spark that will make their offense even more dangerous once Tatum returns. It is rare for a franchise to turn a potential salary cap problem into an opportunity for growth, but that's exactly what the Celtics have done. The rest of the league may not realize it yet, but keeping Anfernee Simons was not just an option. It may be one of the smartest strategic plays of the entire summer. Neemias Queta's rise in the basketball world is no longer a quiet story whispered among scouts and insiders. The Boston Celtics center is suddenly at the forefront of conversations, and not just in Massachusetts, with key frontcourt changes shaking the roster and the paint left wide open for a new leader. Queta's name is being discussed in ways that hint at something much bigger than a breakout year. The departure of established big men has created an opening few could have predicted months ago, and while many eyes naturally drift toward the veterans, there is a growing sense that Boston's most unexpected weapon might come from someone who has been waiting patiently for his moment. Queta is stepping into that space with a level of timing and momentum that can change a career overnight. That momentum exploded into the spotlight in Malaga, Spain, where he led Portugal to an electrifying upset over Spain in a high-intensity exhibition. 17 points, 9 rebounds, and the final dunk that sealed the win were more than just stats. They were a statement, a message that he is no longer just filling a role, but defining one. For Portugal, it was historic. For Boston, it might be prophetic. At 26 years old, Queta is entering a stage of his career where growth is not just possible, but expected. His physical presence has always been undeniable. Yet, the maturity in his recent performances suggests a player who is blending power with precision. The upcoming season, under Joe Mazzulla's system, will not simply hand him minutes. It will test whether he can transform them into game-changing stretches that swing momentum in Boston's favor. Before the NBA lights fully turn back on, Queta has another stage to conquer. The 42nd Eurobasket from the 27th of August to the 14th of September across Latvia, Poland, Finland, and Cyprus will serve as both a proving ground and a showcase. Against some of the toughest big men in international basketball, every rebound, every block, every finish at the rim will carry weight, and every scout watching knows it. In Lisbon, during his second annual youth basketball camp, Queta spoke with Bobby Manning of CLSN Media about the upcoming Celtics season. Surrounded by kids wearing jerseys with his number and dreams in their eyes, Queta's focus was sharp. He acknowledged the roster changes, but his tone carried zero hesitation. He spoke of winning not as a possibility, but as an expectation. He framed the season ahead not as a year of rebuilding, but as one where opportunity meets preparation. What makes this moment for Queta so compelling is not just that he has the chance to claim the starting center position, but that he could redefine what Boston's interior presence looks like for years. The Celtics have built a roster capable of adapting, evolving, and surprising. And in that equation, Queta's role could be one of the most unpredictable variables. The question now is not whether he can play at the highest level, it is whether, when the moment demands it, he can seize control of games in ways that leave opponents scrambling. With the spotlight shifting toward him, the Celtics faithful have one more reason to believe that the next chapter in Boston's story might be written by a player they never saw coming.